name's Randy, and today I'd like to take you on a virtual tour of the Blue Marble Observatory. Check this out. Hello again, I'm Randy, and this is the control room of the Blue Marble Observatory. Just a few details about the building and the construction. What I did is I went with sky shed plans. I went with the full package where you get a 3D viewer, and that came in pretty handy, but all around the plans were very reasonable in cost and very thorough. It was a breeze to build this. Mind you, I did a few extras, adding the control room and the warm room, but again, the plans are good, the building is good, they won awards, and highly recommend the sky shed design, which again, my observatory is based on. So let me just quickly give you a few details. I ran electric wire out here, so I didn't have to run the thing with an extension cord. I went with something called 14-3. What that is 2 power leads and a neutral. So I actually have, I'm running off 2 15-amp breakers in the garage. I have 2 circuits out here. One is for the control room with the heater and the computer and stuff, and the observatory part is on its own circuit. So we should say the heater in the middle of winter time conk out. I'm still recording out there and tracking the telescope, still working and all that. So that's the power. I also ran Ethernet cable, Cat 5e I believe. I have internet in the garage, so that went in with the electrical wire. Again, you know, I have Wi-Fi and it works okay, but nothing quite as fast and reliable as a hardwired Ethernet. So that's the thing. I have the internet out here. I've got my little laptop. It's pretty much permanent. Have another backup in the house should anything happen to this thing, but with a solid state hard drive, it actually seems to be taking the weather and the cold pretty good. Doesn't get too damp in this room, I'll point out, because I've insulated the hell out of it. There's good heavy duty insulation, vapor barrier, 1/4-inch plywood walls everywhere, and even the ceiling. Total idea was to keep this room airtight and seriously have an old General Electric heater. It barely needs to run for 10 minutes. This room retains the heat from the daytime, so that's a plus. It doesn't take much to warm it up. I have dimmable lights in the control room and in the observatory. There's that one, and actually started my DC circuits. I have 2 under panel lights. First notch is red, should I want to keep my dark vision. Second notch, they're RV lights, is red and white. So I have one of those there and another one. I'm not sure if the camera angle will get it, but down here there's a shelf that I keep my notes on and whatnot. So again, a red light and a white light down there. A nice monitor. It's actually an older one I bought for my RV many years ago. It's about the perfect size for this. I believe it's 28 inches. And I've also got it on an articulating mount, so that, and there has been times I'm out adjusting the telescope and I need to see basically what the camera sees. So it's kind of nice. This thing can pull right out, and I could see it from inside the observatory. I'll show you this window and the view from here in a minute. Other than that, it's just nice to have 2 screens when, you know, you've got about 8 or 9 programs running. Seriously. Okay, so that's the control room, part A, I guess. As I said, insulated well. It's not the tallest. I had to consider keeping the sky shed design just how it is. So that limited me to about 6 feet of roof here. And by the time the insulation and stuff, it's just tall enough for me to stand up in. Being short, kind of handy sometimes. You notice the doorways kind of look like the doors to a little elf house or something. They're pretty small, but it wasn't easy finding them. But either way, it all came together. As I say, insulated the heck out of this thing. I'm going to start showing you some of the details regarding wiring and whatnot. So I'll be back. So continuing on with the control room, as I mentioned, there's a red and a white RV light under here. That's part of my 12-volt circuit that's running all over the control room here and out in the observatory. Got a USB charger outlet back there. Come in handy for the Bluetooth speaker and charging the phone and whatnot. And as mentioned, the Ethernet, I haven't put the nice pretty cover on it yet, but essentially that's my internet coming in, as I said, hardwired to the garage. And all control wiring here goes down into this piece of wire duct. It's also called conduit. But and then it goes through the wall, and we'll see what's on the other side in a minute. Just like to point out too, my little hack focuser. This is connected to a 12-volt power supply down here, and that is fed out through a 12-volt extension for actually security cameras. And this is my focus when I don't have my telescope with the motorized USB focuser. This one is just a hard 12 volts in or out, and watching the monitor I could actually see what I'm doing, whether I'm getting better or worse. But so that's that. The other thing I'd like to point out, got some blinds there, and there's the baby. We're heading in there in a minute. But I went with ground fault interrupters, both circuits. This is the circuit that heads out to the observatory, and there's another one back there. A little dark, but either way, this whole little structure is protected. I wasn't sure about water leaks, and I've had a couple of minor issues, but bottom line, should there be a fault between the ground and the power, this thing could save a life someday. So that's it. We'll head into the observatory section. Light is up all the way. So I keep a fan in here on a timer. This just sort of keeps the air moving and keeps things from getting too damp and musty. So here we have it. The roller system, the roof. I'll roll that off in a bit. Not too far, because I'm not sure if you could hear it, but it's quite windy out there. So purpose of the camera, I'd like to point out, is when I'm doing remote control inside the house, if say I'm slewing to a target that's quite far from where I am, this way I could see if anything's not happening, like if it's going to collide with God forbid, the pier or anything like that, I could hit the emergency stop. Back here, as I said, very heavily insulated. Not the cleanest. The tarp is there just in case. We've had a few drops of water get in, so not much there to protect, but there's the door. I don't use the observatory door too much, because essentially with winter time being here, I just need to come into the control room, come in here, pop the tarp off, and off I go. I might have overdone it with the outlets. I think I've got one about every 4 or 5 feet, but it's just nice to have power wherever you want it. And as I mentioned, here's a control room, and nice big double pane weatherproof window that I can see what's going on in each room, and opens in no screen just in case need to run a wire through here or something. So that's that. I'm gonna peel the tarp off the telescope and give you a little more detail, roll the roof off. Hello, I'm back inside the observatory. I'm going to take the tarp off the telescope and just give you a rough idea what it takes to get started here. One of the main reasons why I wanted this observatory so bad, and built one shortly after I got addicted to this hobby, was the setup and teardown. It's about 45 minutes to an hour, and most of the time you got to wait till it's dark to to get your alignment with Polaris, and then you got to do your balancing and setup and everything basically just after it gets dark. And again, that's no fun at the end of the night, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, 45 minutes of having to tear everything down. So that led me to build the Blue Marble Observatory. This isn't my favorite telescope for imaging. It's actually got a few good points about it, but this is a David Levy Comet Hunter. It's a Maxitov Newtonian type of design. It's a reflector type, which means it has a mirror. I prefer my other telescope for imaging. It's a Explorer Scientific ED102, and it's actually it's a lot lighter. It's better for the mount, but I just find it a lot easier to use. The mirrors, you have to align them. It's called collimating. So it's got to be collimated or at least checked pretty much every time I image. Changes with the temperature. So there's not a lot to see here, but essentially to get it all going, just a couple of plugs here. Things are powered up, including power to the camera. I keep my Canon T3i, unmodified by the way. I keep that basically out here. It's the Observatory camera. I'm also filming with one. They're good little cameras all around, but so to get started, I've got to undo a cam latch. I'll show you the cam latch in a bit, but the one thing, the cam latch failed one time, and the roof ended up rolling almost right off the end. It rolled about halfway, but luckily there wasn't a lot of wind. So the one thing I like to point out, I guess you could see it, I have an adjustable bar clamp, I believe it's called. I put that on the rail just to act as a backup. And since I put that on there, I've come out and noticed the latch had failed once. Here's the cam latch. I'll show a picture of it now. So again, it's good to have a backup. I don't want to have to pick my roof up off the ground. One thing as well, it had a little warpage and whatnot in putting the beams up that the wheels roll on. So I got the idea to put a couple of spikes in here, and I've got a turnbuckle and a wire and a pretty heavy duty stainless steel wire. And what that does is keeps the bottom of the rails going out. I think it helps a little bit. Everything seems to have settled. It rolls off really nice. I have garage door rollers, heavy duty tracks as well, as per the Sky Shed design. Keeping the weather out of here is quite interesting. I've learned a few things, and wouldn't do a lot different actually. Somebody had asked me that, but either way, it's just so nice that literally in 5 or 10 minutes I'm up and running, and maybe another 10-15 minutes to double check my alignment and everything. But okay, so not sure if you can hear the wind or not, but I'm going to roll the roof off, and literally this is all it takes. Take off my backup clamp. And over here is Mr. Cam latch. So that is it. Huh? I think I'm frozen. Hasn't been open for a few weeks. It's been cloudy, so get Mr. Crowbar out. There we go. Ice in the rails, but if the wording clear tonight, this is what I would be doing. I like the roof to go just a little past the wall there. I've got about an extra foot of travel, and not sure if that roof is going to get taken away with the wind or not, but it's moving. So after the roof is off, and sometimes it does blow back, essentially I take off lens covers, lens cover of the guide scope, and guide scope is an Altair GP cam. It's a color planetary camera. It's not quite as good as the Canon's, but it makes a good guide scope, or if I want to get into lunar or planetary imaging, it'll be good for that as well. But anyway, that's hooked up to my it's a Starfield 50mm guide scope, and I use PhD2. Give you a little detail of the of the homemade motorized focuser, again, that I ran the wire through, 12 volts off that funky little switch in there. Going with a filter wheel and mono camera soon, so I thought I'd make the move, and I have a powered USB hub here, and good for 10 connections. I only need about 5 or 6, but either way, I'm ready for the future. Okay, everything's open, camera powered up, dew heaters already installed. They're powered up. I don't think I'll be imaging tonight, but and I can't do this with the roof on. Is put the dew shield on main imaging scope. So that's pretty much it. The one video I showed controlling everything, but again, everything is balanced here. My polar alignment is pretty much spot on. You know, having a pier, every little adjustment I make, it stays that way. So it's been set up and pretty much untouched since about October, November, when I actually started using this regularly. I think I did a good job of cable management right about the time I realized I don't like this telescope, so the other one is going to take a whole set of rewiring, but essentially that's it right now. You may notice no handset. What I do is I control everything through Stellarium and Backyard EOS. That doesn't control the mount, but the guiding PhD2 is controlled through this cord, plugs in where the hand controller normally is. I forget what it's called, but it's really, once you go there with, you know, operating, even if you're doing visual, once you start operating through your laptop, I think it's really hard to go back to the hand controller, especially when you see the kind of accuracy. I use a camera to do my alignment. I don't look through any telescope or, you know, guide scope or anything. Everything is done through the computer, and it's the way to go. As they say, I went there and I'm not looking back. Even though I have the hand controllers, if I want to do, you know, visual, it might be an idea to use a hand controller to mount a tripod. But other than that, it's kind of windy here, and I'm getting a little scared. So I'm going to close that roof and put the double latches on it. I'm going to show a few other things. I think that's pretty much it. I can't think of anything else. As I said, I got plugs everywhere. This little fan helps. That's it. That's the Blue Marble Observatory. I wish I could do some imaging tonight, but it's just been, we haven't had clear skies in really about 2 or 3 weeks, and they're not talking about anything clearing up till like next weekend. So to be expected. It's about the middle of February. Pretty chilly and windy, as I said. You could probably hear it, but either way, during the week, whenever I want, I can come out here, and as I said, within half an hour, I've got everything powered up, the roof off, and I'm imaging. So it's really, really a great thing that I built this, because I just cannot get enough of imaging, and it's just something else to be able to come out here and, you know, a work night is what gets me, instead of having to plan on that 45-minute to 1 hour cleanup at the end of it all. So if you're thinking about an observatory, I strongly recommend you do it. Even if you just put a pier in your yard, it's just so much easier, so much more enjoyable. And one more thing, the Sky Shed plans, well worth the money. I built this thing completely by myself, wiring and everything else, and the plans never let me down. They basically walked everything through it. So that's the Blue Marble Observatory. If you like the video, please like. Please subscribe to my channel, and you can also visit thebluemarbleobservatory.com. Thanks for watching.